One thing I would like to make very clear is that this isn't a story about me, that I'm just using my childhood experiences because I think that at least a few of you might be able to identify with what I'm talking about. Because to be quite honest, I doubt that there are many people out there with whom this discussion will resonate. As far as I can see then, and this applies equally to the East as it does to the West, then for most people, spirituality is just another form of materialism. And also for many teachers, just another source of income. Quite frankly, we are spiritual materialists, and we're just looking for something new to acquire, like knowledge, or meditative bliss, or to join some kind of club, like all those social media communities packed to the brim with people who have realized non-dual awakening. So from now on, I'm going to place a caveat on my videos, and that is, warning, this video contains challenging subject matter. And if you don't want to have your spiritual assumptions or preconceptions challenged, then please do not watch this video. And further, do not subscribe to the channel, or even share the link with other like-minded people. It is doubtful that by making these videos, I can truly benefit another being. But even if there is only one subscriber, and I can help that person recognize an internal conflict in their view, meditation, or conduct, and by that come closer to the truth, then that will make me very happy. And also, it will make the effort all worthwhile. Okay, you've been warned. So up until now, the point I've been trying to make is that even little children can ask big questions, like where did I come from, and who is the first human that ever lived? And further, it doesn't take a genius to extrapolate backwards in time to look for causal links, or to imagine the possible consequences that might arise in the future. I will tell you a story here to make this point clear. After coming out of a 4-year retreat in Scotland, I travelled to India to take vows from Tai Situ Rinpoche. We had to travel north, but the train was severely delayed, and so we waited in the lounge for many hours. I was using the time to do a bit of meditation when an Indian woman approached me. She was travelling with her family to see their guru in what is the Indian equivalent of a spiritual summer camp for families. She said that her daughter had a pressing question, and no matter what anyone said, she was never satisfied. And so, could she ask me the question? Her daughter said in a very direct manner that their guru had told them that God created the universe and everything in it, and that she understood the meaning of this, but there was still something she just couldn't understand. And that is, if God created the universe, then where did God come from? So the point here is that even a child is capable of identifying a metaphysical paradox. And further, that children have an advantage in this regard, because unlike us, they have some tenacity in these matters. But sadly, once we get a bit older, we readily give up any hope of ever finding an answer. So in the end, it becomes a matter of either having blind faith that there is some ultimate meaning to reality, or just writing the whole thing off as a bad deal. But in terms of the Buddha's teachings, our problem isn't in finding answers. Our problem is we don't ask the right questions, or misunderstand the meaning of those questions. It's a bit like the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Because the answer to this is quite simple. The egg came first. The problem is we don't even know what we are asking. Because the first chicken, the red jungle fowl, only appeared around 7,000 to 10,000 years ago, whereas the egg first appeared around 312 million years ago. So this is just a silly example of how we don't even know how to ask a question. And if we don't know how to ask a question, then of course we won't find an answer. The correct question is, which came first, the chicken or the chicken egg? And for that, there is also a simple answer. But I will let you try to figure that one out for yourself. So our mistaken question is, where did the Big Bang come from? Or who created God? Or in the case of Schrodinger's cat, for instance, is the cat alive or is the cat dead? But I won't go into just why this is a mistaken question at this time. Now for me as a child, it wasn't just that I had doubts about cosmic origin, but also questions about humanity, how we live our lives, and how, in order to gain prosperity, we are complicit in the suffering of others. Let me put that into context for you. As you know, I was brought up in the privileged West, in Canada, at a time when Canadians enjoyed the highest standard of living of any country in the world. And not only that, also the most prosperous part of Canada. Another thing I was aware of at that time was that Canadians use more resources per capita than any nation in the world. We Canadians tend to explain this away by saying, but Canada is a very cold country, and the cities are all spread out. And I assume that this situation has improved a lot in recent times. But in the 70s, we had ample food, and we're all driving around in huge gas-guzzling cars. And at the same time, nearly 1 million people every year were dying of starvation in Africa. As an innocent child then, looking at my plate of lunch, I asked my mother, "Mum, we have lots of food. Why don't we send some to Africa?" My mother tried to explain that the food would be rotten before it ever got there. And when I pressed her on the matter, on why some people are starving, whilst others have more than they can eat, then I got the standard answer that we're all familiar with. Well, that's just the way things are. There is nothing you can do about it. I never liked that answer, and it always sounded like a cop-out to me. Like when a young child asks their parent, "Why can't I go to the movies today?" And the parent, unable to think of a reason, replies, "Just because." And it is often the case that one cannot find answers from merely asking questions alone, but that answers arise naturally from within, when one isn't even asking. So I remember one such instance when I was maybe 11 or 12 years old. We had vocabulary to memorize, and I always hated it, because I'm terrible at spelling. And there isn't anything particularly difficult about spelling. It's a bit like having faith in God, because in English anyway, there are almost as many exceptions as there are rules. So you just have to believe the word is spelt the way it is. But I like things that make sense, and so I was always more comfortable with mathematics. Anyway, this new word came up, and it caught my attention, because I'd never seen it before, and that word is altruism. And when the teacher read out the meaning of the word, something clicked in my mind. I thought, that's it. That's the solution to the problem of humanity. If we all had altruism, then no one would have to suffer. Now, of course, at that time I had no idea that this was the very cornerstone of the Mahayana Buddhist view. And also, I was just a stupid kid, and pretty naive too, to believe that the solution could be so easy. But now that I am older and have encountered the true Dharma, I have no doubt that if we all developed this selfless concern for others, then the world would be a very different place. So there are these profound quandaries, like the origins of the universe, that seem very distant and somehow unrelated to our daily lives. And also apparently more pressing issues, like moral responsibility and unintentional complicity in the suffering of others. And on the surface, it can appear that these two perspectives are not related in any way, that esoteric questions about the cosmos are somehow abstract and do not affect the way we live our mundane lives. But this could not be further from the truth. It only appears this way because we don't understand the importance of view, and how, when that view is cultivated, it has a profound effect on our natural conduct. There are these three aspects to any spiritual discipline: view, meditation, and conduct. And here, the term spiritual can be omitted, and also you can replace the term meditation with cultivation or contemplation, if that makes more sense in the context of a particular system. For example, using the term meditation when talking about the scientific discipline, for instance, sounds a little out of place. Now, regarding this, I have posted a link in the description below to a video of the scholar Ramesh Balsekar explaining cosmic law. And if you listen to what he has to say, you will get a very clear idea of how this dualistic and theistic Hindu view can be cultivated or meditated on to bring about positive human interaction and happiness. But here, to make my point clear, I will not use as an example a spiritual system, because I want to debunk this idea that these three, namely view, meditation, and conduct, only refer to spiritual traditions. Because for some people, as soon as they think you are talking about religion or spirituality, they immediately switch off. So let's take, for example, the theory of quantum uncertainty, that leads many to believe that the universe was created randomly out of nothing. To quote the famous physicist Stephen Hawking, "I believe that the universe was spontaneously created out of nothing, according to the laws of science. It has no beginning and no end." Now, for somebody who has a profound understanding of quantum mechanics, who cultivates this view, is not really in any danger of developing strange conduct, but rather is likely to develop an almost spiritual awe for the wonders of the universe. Now, for the uninitiate, who struggles to understand the subtle implications of quantum mechanics, cultivating this view that the universe just happened randomly and for no reason, and also that there is no such thing as a self-aware consciousness, then there is the real danger of becoming a nihilist. And a nihilistic view has extreme consequences for one's natural behavior. After all, in a universe with no purpose or meaning, there is also no room for morality. And further, the consequences of one's actions are also meaningless. And as I mentioned earlier, the Lokayata or Charvaka sect of ancient India, holding the view that there is no purpose to life and also no afterlife, engage in the most extreme and shocking conduct, with the basic belief that morality is pointless, and the only thing that matters is to seek pleasure in this life whilst one still can. And it is my position that the consequential signs of this commonly held view of nihilism are visible everywhere in the modern world. There is a great increase in depression and substance abuse, and general desperation that is much less common in communities that have traditional religious beliefs, albeit superstitious ones, in some sort of higher purpose or the will of God. So I've gone on a bit too much here, and I will have to just leave it at that for now. But my main point is that these metaphysical questions are not just about distant cosmic events, obscured in beginningless time, but are relevant to our everyday lives, here and now in the mundane world. And what's more, that our natural, uncontrived view has a profound and direct effect on the way we conduct ourselves and express ourselves in society. Thank you very much for listening, and see you later.